Hey everyone, welcome to the Facts on JW. I'm Anthony, and today we're going to talk about coercive persuasion and thought reform. How the Jehovah's Witnesses are using this to control their members, and they start from the very beginning. And I will show you the proof that they do it, and how they tell people that's in a study, they have the people conducting the study to guide them and kind of mislead them so that they'll give up their worldly family members and worldly friends and only have friends that's inside the cult. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to deep dive into it. I'll post links in the description like always. And guys, we're going to make it fun as well. So hang tight, have fun, and here we go.
Whom do you trust? Do you trust me? I hope so.
Coercive persuasion or thought reform, methods frequently used as a systematic effort to influence or manipulate a person's thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and behavior. Number 1, isolate, separate individuals from their usual social environment and support system. Does that sound a little familiar? Okay. Number 2, control the environment, creating a controlled physical and social environment where the individual loyalty to their old beliefs and relationships is challenged. So create a new loyalty. Sounds familiar. Number 2. Number 3, psychological and physical pressures. This can involve an exacting regime requiring obedience, strong social pressure and reinforcement of the desired behavior, punishments for non-cooperation, ranging from social ostracism to more severe forms of deprivation. Repetition. This is the one that they do all the time. Trust the faithful slave. Obey the faithful slave. Do you trust the governing body? How many times do they say this? I'm going to post a few links, just a few, where they say about obedience, obey, trust, over and over and over. And even in the Watchtower. So think about that. Repetition and reinforcement of new ideas of doctrine. Over and over and over. Repetition. And when you add faith to it, to where you think you're following God, you think Jehovah is guiding them, then it gets deep into your brain, because Jehovah ain't guiding these men. Exploiting emotions and creating fear or guilt to foster dependence or compliance. And we all know they do that because what? If you don't obey the governing body or the faithful slave, then you get disfellowshipped or reproved and then disfellowshipped. So you have to obey. You have to follow what they say. Even though they're not inspired or fallible or infallible, they still speak for Jehovah. Makes no sense. So they either are or are not speaking for Jehovah. They say they're not, but yet they say they are. You getting this? This is kind of crazy. So thought control is a very old technique that's been around for a long time. Starts with Pavlov's dog. You know, this guy started training the dog, right? And you guys can go and read the story. And it started then and it continued on through China, into Europe, and into the United States. And by the time Russell was around at, in the end of his career, it was becoming more popular or well known in the United States. And by the time Russell took over, or Rutherford took over, it was well known and being implemented. And then in the 1950s, of course, with Knorr, We all know what Korea did and how they brainwashed people, and there's a few good movies to go watch about that. Or a good one is A Brave New World. Let's see. Clockwork Orange, and there's a few others. There's one, I can't think of the name of the movie, but Sinatra was in it, and he played a Korean soldier. You can look that one up. And it was about brainwashing, and it's the government we now know experimented with MK Ultra and different forms of brainwashing, but these are things that's been around for a long time and were implemented by some of the members of Jehovah's Witnesses, not to the extent government did, but to the extent where they knew that repetition and making you build your faith and making you believe wholeheartedly, and if you didn't do what they told you to do, they'd take away something. They knew it would create loyalty to the cult, and that's how cults are built. So Jim Jones built a whole huge cult on it, and we know what he did. So think about that. The exact same technique. You know, he took people to Guyana because he didn't want no part of this world, and he took them down there to escape legal justice, but he kept telling his members he didn't want to be part of this world, that they didn't need to be a part of this world, you know, and then you see the outcome finally. So it's really a scary thought. So, but the good part is the days are numbered, and the Jehovah's Witnesses see it. Time marches on, and it's coming quick for them. They only have a few billion empire. Amount of lawsuits. I mean, it almost bankrupted the Catholic Church, and well, it did in Pennsylvania, the diocese, a couple of dioceses there, New York. So big cities like that, and this is a church that have 1 billion members, and you know their coffers are full. They have so much cash that it's mind-boggling. But those areas were bankrupted. Jehovah's Witnesses don't have enough billions to undergo that. There's no way they'd survive it. Anyway, here we go on further, guys.
I'd call home to speak with my family, and my mother would always ask, "Have they told you when the date of Armageddon is?"
But Jehovah created us with the inclination to trust. We can especially trust our spiritual brothers. True, once in a while such trust is misplaced. A few commit serious sins and have to be disfellowshipped, but that is rare.
Cults divide families, create hostility between family members.
Okay, I don't want to run ahead of this. I want us to get down. Now, you mentioned the first point, abuse of authority.
Let's take a look at a film clip that demonstrates that with interviews.
Okay, let's do this. And I hope others of you are taking notes as well, because this is important.
You want to go out and tell them something that I stand for about social action, social justice, ask me your questions, and I'll tell you right straight from the shoulder where I stand. And people view me in a myriad of ways. Some people see me as the representative of the I Am, as Jehovah Jireh. Some people see a great deal of God in my body. They see Christ in me, a hope of glory. And it does fabulous things. I could accept him saying that he was a prophet of God because he was a real good speaker. He was saying a lot of things that I felt. You know, he could express for me things that I wanted to say, but I really didn't know how. Made me feel good to listen to him talk.
He used to take the newspaper and he'd read it to us, and then he would interpret it, and I'm sure it was slanted the way he wanted it to be. But that really, you know, I really sat up because I want to learn. I've always wanted to learn.
And so you believe it and you join the church, and then whatever he tells you, you end up believing it.
The more power that he got with people, the numbers of people, and the more money that he attained, the sicker he got and the more he wanted.
Jim wanted all allegiance for himself. He wanted every person to only love him, where this person is allowed to interpret God or interpret things for you, and you accept his thoughts more than your own. I think that should be a warning sign.
Jim Jones became an authority figure for me, just like Jesus had in the past.
I feel like Americans, especially young people today, they're too trusting.
I think that oftentimes this goes back to early religious programming that says that you are not really capable of making the ultimate decisions for your life. You need a leader.
As we are getting ever closer to the Great Tribulation, we might be confronted with scary challenges and tests related to nationalism. Will we keep trusting Jehovah? We trust we will. Jehovah will miraculously save his people throughout the Great Tribulation and arrange for their survival. Today, the faithful slave was put in charge of providing spiritual food for God's people who number into the millions. The slave also shows complete trust in Jehovah that he will guide them with his Holy Spirit. What makes it possible for the faithful and discreet slave to provide precious spiritual food? I will give you insight and instruct you in the way you should go, says Jehovah. Psalm 32, verse 8. Today, Jehovah provides direction to the slave through Jesus. Jesus, in turn, provides direction for his people through the faithful and discreet slave. We can have, therefore, full confidence in the scriptural insight, understanding, and guidance. Scheme to spread rumors about faithful brothers, including the faithful slave. The method of spreading rumors is not new. Rumors are occasionally being spread in electronic form about the faithful slave. This has caused some concern on the part of some brothers, especially when the reports are commenting on court cases where some in the organization were accused.
Okay, guys, did you catch that? Don't believe anything that you read online or anything you see on television. They're just against Jehovah. So if it's someone that's in trouble or in a court case, like he said, don't believe it. That's why all these CSA cases are being discovered up right now, and they're protecting these criminals, these vile people, is because of this very thought that they have right here. They don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name. Their name is destroyed. When people think Jehovah's Witnesses today, they think disgusting people. I don't know why they're worried about that now. They're no longer those sweet people in suits that used to knock on doors. But anyway, don't believe nothing you read anywhere, and don't believe nothing you see on TV, unless it comes through that governing body. Is that not mind control? That is 100% mind control. That is trying to tell you what you can believe, what you can think. That is thought control to 100th degree. You're not allowed to have your own mind. No critical thinking skills whatsoever. Just be a mindless robot and listen to the governing body. You might be in a cult if, you know. All right, guys, let's keep on with this.
Ask yourself, am I prone to believe rumors? And even if I am, should I spread it and undermine the trust that others have in the slave or in representative of the branch office? Avoid sensationalism by saying something like, can you believe what I heard about this matter, or this person, or that person, referring to a statement that may have appeared on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. This is not to say that the slave is perfect and never makes mistakes, but Jehovah and Jesus trust the imperfect slave who cares for things to the best of his ability and with the best of motives. Shouldn't we then trust the imperfect slave as well? To appreciate the extent of Jehovah's and Jesus' trust in the faithful slave, reflect on what he has promised its members. He has promised them immortality and incorruption. Soon, just before Armageddon, the remaining members of the slave will be taken to heaven. Since 1919 of our common era, the slave has been put in charge of some belongings of Christ. According to Matthew 24:47, when the anointed are taken to heaven, Jesus will at that point entrust all his belongings to them. Does this not reveal immense trust? Revelation 4:4 describes these resurrected anointed as co-rulers with Christ. Revelation 22:5 says they will rule not only for 1,000 years, but forever and ever. What immense trust Jesus shows toward them. Since Jehovah God and Jesus Christ completely trust the faithful and discreet slave, should we not do the same? So, whom do you trust? You fully trust in Jehovah, Jesus, and the faithful slave. To a reasonable degree, you also trust all your fellow brothers and sisters, pointing to the survival of the Great Tribulation and to the paradise to follow will also come true without the slightest possibility of failure. Of course, we should trust not only Jehovah, Jesus, the faithful slave, and the Bible, but also our fellow brothers. When we speak of trust, we sometimes think of a little child walking hand in hand with his father. The child does not question where the father will take him. The child trusts the father. Therefore, keep trusting in Jehovah and those who are proving loyal to him.
Okay, guys, there you hear it first. Follow the governing body like a child follows their father. Be loyal. Obey. Trust the governing body. How many times do they tell you, trust the faithful slave, trust the governing body? You can trust them. Jehovah and Jesus trust them, but yet they're uninspired and infallible. And how is that possible? It's impossible. This shows that they double talk, they lie. And then, as you're getting ready to see in just a few moments, they're going to start talking about persecution because they love to be persecuted. They play on people's emotions, they play on people's fear. You're never going to do enough to make it to paradise. How many Jehovah's Witnesses do you know that know they're going to be in paradise earth? Many have doubt. Oh, I don't know if I'll make it. Don't know if I've done enough. So think about that. So they keep you there in fear. And then if you try to leave, you lose your family. So you're obligated. You're stuck. That's a cult. That's the way cults work. You know, they think because they don't have just one leader that doesn't make them a cult, but they forget that the leader is the governing body. It's a group of men that they worship as if it's Jehovah God himself. They're co-rulers with Christ. They put themselves equal with Christ. So, you know, just as Loesch said, they will be co-rulers. Yeah. So if you're a Christian, then you know this is extreme blasphemy. They cherry pick scripture. They'll use one verse, create a story around it, and argue it to say, do you not see what it says? But then when you go and you find the chapter that verse was taken out of, had nothing whatsoever to do with what they're saying. It's a lie. It's a scam. Just keep listening. Listen to how many times in just these few videos they tell you to obey, to follow, to be faithful, to trust. Oh Lord, trust over and over and over and over. Trust the faithful slave. Trust the governing body. Do you trust the governing body? I certainly hope so. So think about this. These guys are liars and con artists. And when you get to that level and you've read all of the material, they say they research everything all the way back to 1879, so they know all of the crazy talk from Russell and Rutherford, Nor's earlier stuff, and then all the flip-flopping they've done since Nor to now. So they know it's all a bunch of bull. They're very confident in it. But yet they still try to sell the memberships a nice little total package and keep them obligated in fear and guilt so they won't leave. So anyway, guys, we're going to keep on. Hope you enjoy this. Hope you've been learning something along the way, and maybe picking up something you never noticed while you were a member of this group of men. So here we go.
And that is persecution. Restrictions on our work and bans are designed to create fear. Negative articles in the media about Jehovah's Witnesses are designed to create doubt. Religious leaders and opposers, they attack our neutrality, our clear support for the Bible's view, or discipline by disfellowshipping and other matters. And add to that some of our brothers are being rounded up and thrown into prison. Persecution, we could liken it to when you're in an airplane and it has some turbulence and it begins to shake. One flight I was on, there was one woman that cried in terror. She screamed out loud every time the plane shook even just a little. I mean, she was genuinely terrified. I felt sorry for her. But the experienced flyers, they were eating, reading, watching movies. They didn't even notice the turbulence. Persecution of this system cause us fear or doubt. Let's consider two ways that we can show trust in Jehovah, as Jeremiah 17:7 says. First, we're going to talk about trusting the faithful and discreet slave and trusting Bible principles. Let's talk first about trusting the faithful and discreet slave. The faithful and discreet slave has been selected and appointed by Jehovah, and experience has shown we can trust them. You see, trust is built by repeated good experiences. Think of all the good experiences we've had with the faithful and discreet slave and following their direction. Trust in the faithful and discreet slave is not geographical. Jehovah's direction through the faithful and discreet slave applies to all of God's people all over the earth. See, fear is really a loss of memory of what Jehovah has done for us.
Hey guys, are you getting this now? Maybe if I say, Jehovah appointed the faithful and discreet slave, and we have to follow their lead, and you can trust the faithful and discreet slave enough, and they are feeding us food at the proper time, spiritual food at the proper time. If we say it enough, maybe you'll believe us. Do you see how this works? It's repetitive over and over and over and over and over and over. It's in the videos. It's in the watchtowers. It's in what used to be the Awake. It's over and over and over. They keep saying this stuff. And if you say it enough, people start believing it. It's repetitive, and that's a type of coercive persuasion. And they continue to do it over and over and over. So anyway, and then they play on the persecution. So persecution, how bad everything is, the only way and the only religion that has the truth is Jehovah's Witnesses. I'd like to know where they got that from, but anyway, do you see what I'm saying? They single themselves out as being unique. They create a sense of arrogance about themselves, and then they continue to tell you and feed you that they are the only true representatives of Jehovah. But yet they're not inspired or infallible. So it's like I said, you cannot have one way or the other, because what they're saying is they actually are inspired and fallible. but at the same time, they're saying they're not. So if they're not inspired and they're infallible, then why would you listen or read anything that they say or believe in the Watchtower? Because it would mean nothing. So think about that. Look up the definitions for uninspired and infallible. It's pretty clear. What they're doing is taking away your critical thinking skills. They don't want you to think for yourself. They're telling you not to believe anything unless they tell you. It says it right in this video here. If they tell you something, then you can believe it. Otherwise, don't believe nothing. So you have no free thought, no free will, and no critical thinking skills because they do it all for you. Let's keep on with this video. And we're winding it up here, but there's a couple of more. And you can go through a lot of their videos and find multiple videos with them saying to trust the faithful slave. It's over and over. It's repetitive. But anyway, let's keep on.
All the good experiences we've had with the faithful and discreet slave, and let one moment of fear get to us. Now, your trust in the faithful and discreet slave is going to be put to the test. Satan will make sure of that. It could be your own thoughts. I know better. Or maybe some twisted lies you read or hear. Either way, it's a trap. Stay away from such ideas. Trust what you know about the faithful and discreet slave. Your strength will be in keeping calm and showing trust. Remember, the faithful and discreet slave has been selected and appointed by Jehovah, and our experience has shown that we can trust them. Now, trusting the faithful and discreet slave and trusting the Bible are just two of many ways that we can show that we trust Jehovah. We don't need to be anxious when faced with lies, bans, or attacks on our Bible principles. Jehovah has given us what we need to fly, so to speak. The faithful and discreet slave, Bible principles, prayer, Holy Spirit, and more.
The faithful and discreet slave, and we're ready to obey any instruction they provide. Trusting Him will help us understand the prophetic role of the faithful and discreet slave during this time of the end, when Jehovah is using them to provide life-saving direction. This direction is helping us to stay ready.
That we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.